From the East Brunswick Jewish Center, I'm Rabbi Jeff Paivo. One of the reasons that I enjoy studying the Hebrew language is that Hebrew, like all languages, has a character all its own. While we can appreciate the ease with which a translation can communicate a text's ideas, it's often surprising how many concepts that a translation can actually obscure. Translation is always an act of interpretation, making choices among multiple possibilities and, by definition, excluding some of those possibilities. One of the ways that a translation can smooth out a text and possibly obscure its meanings is in its treatment of idioms. An idiom is a word or phrase that doesn't mean what it seems to, and is only understood by its native speakers through repeated usage. For example, as English speakers, we know that something that we call a piece of cake is easy, and that to kick the bucket means to die. But those meanings don't translate to other languages, except in the limited circumstances where a speaker is talking about a literal piece of cake or actually kicking a bucket. The Hebrew Bible has many such idioms, 3 of which appear in the Parsha this week, in Parshat Korach. When Moses sends for 2 Israelites who are rebelling against his leadership, they refuse to appear, saying, quote, "Even if you had brought us to a land flowing with milk and honey, and giving us possession of fields and vineyards, should you gouge out those men's eyes?" Now, in translation, we understand the phrase describing Israel as a land flowing with milk and honey because many of us have been reading and using that phrase all our lives, and we understand that it means that the land of Canaan is fruitful, not that milk and honey are actually flowing along the ground. But the other phrase should get our attention. In what way is Moses attempting to gouge out someone's eyes? In biblical Hebrew, the phrase is probably the equivalent of pulling the wool over someone's eyes, an idiom itself, meaning to fool them. In response to the rebels' words, Moses turns to God and says, "Pay no regard. I have not taken the ass of any one of them, nor have I wronged any one of them." Now, it's unlikely that Moses would be accused of stealing livestock. So the meaning here must be similar to the phrase that follows it, that Moses has not wronged them. It may even be the case, from an historical point of view, that this idiom was unknown in the late biblical period, and that an early scribe had to add in the phrase, "nor have I wronged any one of them," to explain what was already an archaic idiom. When we read sacred texts, we should stay alert to what doesn't seem to make sense, and then study whether it is the translation into English or the Hebrew original that is causing our misunderstanding, and then finally come to a resolution about what that phrase means to deepen our understanding and our connection to the text. We do that in my weekly Parshat HaShavua class on Shabbat mornings at 9 a.m., and Dr. Judah Landa does the same, teaching Torah on Wednesday nights at 8:30. I invite you to join us to delve more deeply into the words of Torah and into its meanings. From all of us at the East Brunswick Jewish Center, a Shabbat Shalom.